Take a listen at the Prime Minister of Mali Choguel Kokalla Maiga condemned the African Union and ECOWAS, following their threats to the member states of the Alliance of Sahel States, and the announcement by the African Union that it does not recognize the AES confederation or accept the withdrawal of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso from ECOWAS. This is a speech that he delivered on the Thursday of July 18, 2024, as he presided over a crucial state meeting in Bamako.
Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, the Confederation of the AES was formalized on the Saturday of July 6, 2024, and the constitutive act of the Confederation was initiated by the eminent leaders of the three countries, that is Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger. Their Excellencies Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Colonel Assimi Goïta and Brigadier General Abdourahmane Chiani. I listen every morning to all the international radios, I listen to the interventions of the citizens, and I read the press. And out of this, I assure you that I often realize that some people do not even know what they are talking about. Because there is an international media campaign to sow confusion in the minds of Africans, and of the AES, by saying that yes, we are one family, that we are leaving the family and thus we will divide. But in the world of opinions, have you seen an important decision that was not the decision of a few determined men? For those who have a sense of history, none of the great leaders who have marked history have sought total consensus on what they do. We choose what is interesting for the people at a given moment in history, and we take this voice either by election. In the elections, you see a president, the presidents who come, they compete, then there is one who takes, who wins, and it is his line that is imposed on everyone until the next elections. But he does not come and say, we put everyone together. But why is it that way? If you put everyone together, you would not do anything in a society. The opinions are contradictory. When one opinion prevails, it is the one which prevails until the people seek to reject this line and follow another line. So even for democratic leaders, this business of consensus of leaders, or everyone together, it's not there. The big countries, if you look at them, at each stage of their history, the leaders choose a path. They explain it to the people and they move forward. If it's through elections, and if it doesn't work, we remove them. If it's other voices, we find ways to remove them, but they don't come and sit down to say that they don't have the assent of everyone, they will never move forward. That doesn't exist. In these countries where the term was invented, because I know that it was developed elsewhere and put in the mouths of some, but at home, the climate is different. The French leaders told the people what others did not agree with until they succeeded or failed. And so, the leaders of the AES made a choice in the name of their people. Our role is to explain it to our people, convince them of the correctness of our choice, and hope that history proves us right. And I am sure that we will be right. If history shows otherwise, the people will draw conclusions. That is why when I listen to all these speeches, I say to myself that we still need to give some clarifications to each other. The Malian, Burkinabe and Niger leaders did not just get up like that, and left the barracks to come, and say that they are in power. But in Mali, we had no country. 80% of our country was occupied by terrorists. It is only in the capital that we could travel, hold meetings, or make ties, but then, there was nothing. Since 2014, I have not been able to go to my village. There are party leaders who are asking for elections, but they cannot go to their homes to hold elections. But the people said that enough is enough. They demonstrated for months, and the Malian army came to deliver the Malian people. So the Malian soldiers did not get up, leave the front and come and take power. That is in Mali. In Burkina Faso, it is another reality. There, the democratic system worked, they held elections, there was a president who was there, an assembly that we could not have, and everything worked, but still there was insecurity. The citizens did not live, and they finally revolted, so it is the result of a military insurrection which put an end to what they call the democratic regime. In Niger, it is the most striking illustration, where you had a president who tells his army not to fight, that you are too weak, and that your adversaries are stronger than you. But in times of war, that is intelligence with the enemy. That was Niger. People were killed in their thousands. We couldn't even demonstrate. Remember when Barkhane left, there are some Nigerians who wanted to say no, but the man who led the protest was killed. He was burned in his car, and no one talks about it until today. We terrorized the Nigerians. They were forced to be confined at home. If you stick your head out, we smash it. We continued to kill the soldiers. The population was in disarray. So the Nigerian military did not rise up overnight to come to power. It was to deliver these people who could no longer speak, who could no longer act. And therefore our presidents are not democratically elected in parentheses, with often shameful percentages, but they are the product of the popular will of the suffering of their people and their demands. That is why on July 6, 2024, the foundation was established for the building of the AES Confederation. We saw from July 7 a meeting of ECOWAS which had on its agenda, among other things, the question of the withdrawal of this institution from the three countries constituting the AES Confederation. And at the end of this summit, ECOWAS took certain decisions on this subject. First, they noted that the AES Confederation confirmed the definitive withdrawal of the three member countries of ECOWAS. But ECOWAS in response did not ask itself why they left. It stuck to the old methods of sanctions and the stick, so it threatened sanctions. But we did that against Mali, it failed. We did that against Burkina Faso, it failed. We did that against Niger, it failed. But why don't human beings change? One characteristic is their ability to learn lessons from what happens. How can an organization of peoples, let's say, I don't think it's the peoples, leaders, not learn the lessons of what happened? At least we had to sit down and say, we did that against Mali, what was the result, and so on. So what do we do now? But no, we come with the same methods of sanctions, threats, punishments, threats of punishment against our countries, and the ridiculous thing is that the representative of the African Union, who is a civil servant on call, pretends and goes to give an assessment on the choices of the people of the three countries. A civil servant on that matter, we can dismiss him at any time. He is not elected. He will condemn Niger, Burkina and Mali, but it is not the first time. You remember when there was change of regime in Mali, it was an ECOWAS civil servant before the Conference of Heads of State, who decided to sanction Mali. But why don't Africans inherit the slightest thing from the lessons they have learned? And in these organizations, it is very clear that it is the Conference of Heads of State that makes a decision. But why does a civil servant not take good decisions? This is the problem of Africans. As soon as someone is in a position of responsibility, he believes that he will do what he wants. But we must do what the law says. So what this African Union official did was not the first time. Fortunately, on the same day, Our valiant and brilliant foreign affairs ministers punched him so much that we don't even talk about it anymore. I don't even know where he is now, because we asked the African Union to learn lessons, because this gentleman came to interfere in what does not concern him. He went beyond his mission. He does not have the mission to give an assessment of a political decision by a sovereign people. People have the impression of forgetting to remember that. Ladies and gentlemen, the AES Confederation is the result of a simultaneous withdrawal of the three countries from ECOWAS through the declaration of January 28, 2024. Which is itself the product of a maturation. Because in reality, this declaration follows evidence that we had that certain countries were being used to attack Niger, to overthrow the established power, and to institute puppets. That was what was happening. That was what was happening. They had given themselves very little time, but we got ahead of ourselves, Mali, immediately with our brothers and friends from Burkina. It was played out in Niger and we decided to leave this organization where the laws are no longer respected, because they are foreigners who come to give money to Africans to suffocate, starve and kill other Africans in hospitals. You remember that the G5 Sahel has been asking for 2 billion in the fight against terrorism for so many years. We have never found it, and here is the famous ECOWAS standby force that has been waiting since 2012, because it was created or rather announced on the occasion of the inauguration of President Macky Sall in 2012. The standby force, they had said at that moment, that it was 5,000 men. At this meeting, the French Minister of Foreign Affairs emerged giving his lecture to tell the President that our 5,000 men are too much compared to just 500 bandits in the north of Mali. What was his business? That we take, as I can say, a hammer, a fan, or a pestle to crush a parasitic fly. That was his business. And since 2012, this standby force has still been waiting, and it is the other day that we said that we found her 3 billion to go attack Niger. 3 billion which would come from abroad, from the foreigner who takes out the money in finance, so that we can put the knife in the hand of an African, who is going to stab his brother. But we have taught ourselves to read history, because the difference between man and other living beings is those who learn their lessons, and analyze them. A great philosopher once said that, he who does not learn the lessons of history or who does not know history is doomed to repeat it. And we have looked at ourselves, in recent years, what has happened to us, but the one who cannot pull the ground. You have a standby force that has been waiting since 2012, and you cannot learn the lessons to say that this standby force is worthless. It cannot do anything. You come to do the bagabaga against Niger, even though this attack force will rise and someone will give you 3 billion. But we have said very clearly to those who were warmongers, we have warned them. I use the joke, that is not how we spoke of course, but I use the joke by saying that we have been very clear, whoever touches a bedside of Niger, we will shave his head, because after Niger, it is Burkina, after Mali. We know what they are preparing. They are strategizing by making people believe that it is Niger because they believe they are weaker. As everyone has lost Mali, we have chased them all out of our homes, so they want to surround us. And sir, we got together, we told them that whoever touches Niger will see, and what did they do? They looked at each other. This force has continued to wait, and until now, it is waiting, and then one day, that's on July 30th, they will meet. Who is this standby force? When it is ready, they will come and fall on Niger. But on the 31st, we made a joint declaration to be very clear. It was there that we decided that whoever hits Burkina this time, Niger this time, he hits our three countries. The brothers joined hands to face adversity, and whoever lets himself be manipulated by foreign forces. Because we forget this part of history, people think that when Traoré ended up in Niger, they decided that we get out, but there is a process. So on July 30th, they decided that they will fall on Niger, and on July 31st we told them that if you fall on Niger, we consider it an act of aggression against all our countries. And already on September 23rd, you recall at the podium of the United Nations at the 78th session, when the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Niger was prevented from returning to speak, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mali took charge, and he spoke on behalf of our two countries. He spoke brilliantly on behalf of Mali and Niger. Many seem to forget that. Because on September 7th, I wanted to remind you, there was the attack on the boat in Timbuktu, where several hundred died. Do you know that ECOWAS held a summit afterwards? They didn't even take it into account. Even a simple letter of condolences to the President of Mali, or our country was opposed by the United Nations, so that means that the Malians can die and it's none of their business. But we have common sense, and if you don't take yourselves seriously, we defend ourselves. Hundreds of Malians die, and when ECOWAS meets, it doesn't even take it into account. At the UN, we don't even pay attention to this, and how can you understand these behaviors? We can't continue to accept things like this, but it so happens, and at this moment, we had the plan to take Kidal. We took it. We took Kidal, and we chased away all these evil forces that were among us, just deceiving us. That is the Takuba, the G5 Sahel, Barkhane, MINUSMA, what else do I know, the EUTM and CAP, who came to train our soldiers, but do not give bullets to the soldiers, so they do not give lethal weapons. But they are the same ones who say that they will give lethal weapons to fall on Niger. Are they not the same ones who send instructors to an Eastern European country with lethal weapons? But people think that we do not think, but we compare everything on every day that God makes, and we realize that our destiny must be taken in hand by ourselves and our people. No one else will do it. Because when you have at the head of states people who have decided to be agents of execution of the political decisions of non-African countries, we cannot continue to accept this. And ladies and gentlemen, when on November 14th we took Kidal, after 13 years of occupation, ECOWAS said nothing. For them, it was a non-event, and yet for 13 years, the Malian state was forgotten, had been chased out of Kidal, and yet when these forces arrived in Kidal, they did nothing. Remember the famous speech by François Hollande, who said that the Serval force is going to Mali to firstly destroy, to destroy the terrorists. Secondly, to impose the authority of the state over the entire territory, and thirdly, to apply the resolutions of the United Nations. But what have we seen? Since 2013, the terrorism which was confined to the north of Mali took 80% of Mali. Terrorists who were not in Burkina or Niger, where we had presidents who thought that by putting themselves at the service of others against Mali, that their power would last, have spread to these countries. Terrorism has hit hard. Terrorism since 2019 has settled in the north of Benin and Togo. The first version was a lie. Because you know the problems with Africans is that we have mentalities like those of children. To an African, they have two behaviors towards one. They caress him in the direction of weight to flatter him in front of people like a big baby, and when they are alone they threaten him so that he accepts everything. These are the two methods they use. In front of the cameras, they are friends, hugs, my brother is a friend, but when he enters the room, he threatens him, and finally they always have what they want. But that cannot work with us. We do not need to be complimented. We want to solve the problem. And sir, for 10 years, terrorism has expanded. As for the authority of the state in the north of Mali, I repeat these things so that Africans and Malians understand. But who prevented the Malian state from going to Kidal? It was the French state. Our transitional president had requested air support for intelligence. There is never any mention of French soldiers, but what did they do? They prevented us from going to Kidal. Afterwards, they brought 5,000 soldiers from certain African countries, with a budget of 1 billion CFA francs per day. For 10 years, they exploited gold, and brought thousands more citizens from other African countries. In Kidal and in Gao, we have gold. Where the gold goes, nobody knows. But there is a small part that comes to feed the oligarchy in Bamako, composed of politicians, judges, soldiers, and all those who have influence to keep us in slavery. Until the day God delivered the Malian people, they were chased away. Do you know that there were people who made 96 million CFA francs per day, every month, in gold mining? Those who were put at their service, that is the small amount that was given to these valets. But we don't know where the rest went. That is why there are countries where they do not even produce gold, but which have thousands of tons of gold in their treasuries. But we read that there are no roads or wells for 10 years in the north, and all the populations have left. All those who can do economic business, that is the businessmen, they were killed in targeted assassinations to create a vacuum, and they denigrated the military. I listened to generals making fun of our military, and then there are politicians too, who follow in their footsteps. There are politicians here who say that in Mali, there is no military, that they are only good for parading coups, but as soon as you shoot, he flees. And I hear generals say no, even the vehicles that we give them, they sell them, they remove the engines, they remove the tires to discourage the Malians, to bring to their homes, and to cultivate in us, the rejection of the military. Fortunately, as I say, our people have been delivered, our army has given us back our dignity and our honor. But they are the same soldiers, the same terrorists are getting stronger by the way. Why did we take Asamaka? Why did we take Kidal? Because there is an awareness, and that is why you will have understood me. For months, I have been doing what is entrusted to us by this president. We speak to awaken consciences. Because when a soldier shoots, he kills a person, but when you speak, it is thousands of people who understand. That is what we are doing. Free the Malians, love their armies, respect the military, sanctify them. This is what we are doing, and in the AES Confederation affair, we are dealing them the final blow of contradiction. They are the ones who created the conditions for the withdrawal of the AES countries, and they are going to meet. Can you imagine this ECOWAS? People do not even pay their contributions. It is the European Union that pays their contributions, and that is what completes their budget. You can imagine, in the ECOWAS headquarters, there are soldiers, colonels and senior European officers who have offices in the ECOWAS offices to manipulate. You have seen the last summits, it is a minister from another country who comes. You have probably seen the photo, where she gives instructions, finger in the air, to the president of the commission, like a student who was surprised in the toilets. She does it like that with her head down, to the ECOWAS commission, a minister, a deputy minister of our country, and it is this gentleman who comes to threaten us. But they don't know the Malians. We are a people of warriors. We sent away the French and all the presidents who attacked Mali in Africa. They all ended badly. And that's why I told everyone to leave us in peace. We will solve our problems, solve your problems and everything. But any state, any leader who will attack Mali, use Mali as a trade to stay in power, God will punish him. I can name some, but for some reasons, I don't want to say anything. But those who are relentless against us should know what awaits them. We will not put foreign bases here. Since President Modibo Keïta, we have chased away foreign bases. We worked him away. IB Keïta came, they made everything part of it. They said he is a man who can be manipulated. IB Keïta refused. When they installed the base in Burkina in 2019, I don't know, it has a secret name, a secret base. Like today, they hid it from the population and the media. This base remained until recently when the power he brought left, this base fell. During this period, they wanted to install a base in Mali, but Keïta told them no, the Malian army will never accept that. So it's in our DNA. And what did they do? They used terrorists to force our transitional president to call on them. But even there, he made a nuance. He said he wants air support and intelligence. He never said to come and settle with us, but they came. Do you know that even this letter, that they had our president write, it was their ambassador who went back and forth and had it signed. When we looked for it, there was none in the archives in Mali. To find it, we went to the website of their institutions. That's where we found the copy of the letter from the interim president of Mali, who called for Operation Serval. But do you think that this can continue? Mali, Niger, Burkina, we have decided that we are not going to continue to do as in the past. And that's why you saw that in the AES, it's a very light body, we didn't create a bureaucracy, and we're not going to install agents that are going to corrupt it. It is in a rotating manner. There is not a structure where we will place seats and make fights to place cousins, relatives, or cronies to sell Africa. But at home there, I told you that ECOWAS, as you may have seen in a summit of the European Union, or of these countries where Africans are in the room, but these people in all the meetings are people from other countries who are in the room, they are manipulated in the corridors. The soldiers that we send there, they manipulate them. In reality, we say that they are at the service of these countries, otherwise, what is the military of the European Union going to come and do in the ECOWAS buildings? What is he coming to do there? But we know what he is doing. We know his name. I do not want to say it only for reasons that you understand. We know which country he comes from, the people with whom they are in contact there and here. We know it, but people have to stop. Africans have to learn the lessons of what happened here and there. You know the controversy that there is today between a president of the AES and certain countries. In relation to a president of the AES and Niger, let's say, and certain countries. In relation to the secret bases there, no one has ever recognized them. Have you ever heard a country say, yes, I recognize that there are secret bases in my country? Generally, when they surprise them, or corner them, they have two attitudes. Either they keep quiet waiting for the storm to pass, or they get up very loudly to make denials, saying that foreign journalists can come and investigate. But those who said it, foreign journalists were investigated the other day, and they hid. Yes, I forgot the Burkina base, it was base Sabre in 2019. But we hid that even from the Burkinabe people. It was a secret base. They wanted to admit to Mali, Ibi Keita refused. The president who was there thought that by playing the game, it allows him to stay in power. But after the Burkinabe people rose up, we made them leave. The secret bases, that's why they're called secret. They never recognize them. It's from this base that they planned to fall on Niger, to overthrow the regime. That's why on January 28th, we met and we said that we were leaving this evil organization so that these texts would not be used to oppress us. But we forget these aspects as if the presidents took their plane, went to Niamey and said, well, we're creating the AES. Or those who say, but what will become of us? But our people existed before ECOWAS, why don't they go? It reminds me exactly of when we were chasing them out of here. They say, but what will become of the Malians who work there? But these Malians existed before ECOWAS. I really wanted to say this because all these Africans and those we lead must understand. Our plan must depend exclusively on us, our people, and our leaders. And I end with a final warning. I said it. I repeat it. I don't want to swear, but I am sure that all the countries, all the leaders, whether African or elsewhere, who engage in plots against our people, they will pay for it. God's agenda is different from that of men. There are some who will lose the elections, and they will flee the next day. We saw it here. The next day they fled, yet they did everything. Imprisoned 1,000 people who are innocent people, imprisoned lawyers, violated all the laws to be able to eliminate a political opponent. And they say that it is democracy, and democracy is the laws. When we use all that, that is the numbers. If it was in a military regime, which they feel bad about, they were suddenly going to say that it is the military dictatorship. We are accused of killing the population, but are those who died in that country not citizens? And we say that the president is Democrat. When we held a coup d'état in Niger, we say that we are going to have a defense meeting in Paris, and a few days later, there is a coup d'état in another African country, they say no, we are going to follow what is going to happen there. And then a few days later, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the European Union, Joseph Borrell, he brings together the Ministers of Defense and Foreign Affairs of the European Union and all the departments in Spain. And he says, watch out, in Africa, we have interests, we must try to understand them. I said, really, you wake up at 2 o'clock. We have been surprised since 6 o'clock, and you want to teach us now. Well, Africans are not dumb. It is time that we understand this, that the people understand this. We will never accept this. In any case, the Malian people will never accept it. I also reminded the French Deputy Foreign Minister in 2021 after our return from the United Nations. He came to fight me in my hotel. When he finished his utterance there, I said, go ahead and revise your history. During history, there are countries that your great-grandparents colonized in 6 months, or in 1 year. But to colonize the current Malian territories, your great-grandparents had to endure 38 years of war, between 1878 to 1916. So 38 years of war, and during the 70 years of colonization, when it was not the Tamasheks, it was the Ears, it was the Sweaters, it was the Dogons, it was the Miniankers, the Bobos, the Senufos, the Sarakolas, and they never had peace. It is therefore said that do not get the wrong people. We resisted the suggestion. Secondly, you do not have the leaders you were used to, that you pat on the shoulder, you flatter them in front of the people, and then you go and threaten them in the rooms. No one threatens us except God and our people, these two alone that we call. Assimi Goïta does not need your visas, he does not have an account with you, we do not need your visas, we do not have an account with you, even when he is in office. So, your visas are there. If you ban him, he's quite democratically elected, and when we say that we have cut the visa, he won't fall ill. These are not the people who are leading the country today. So I told him to go and review his history lessons. He told me yes, the Russians, that they saw them in July, and the Russians will do nothing in Mali. I said, but are you late? I saw our Minister of Foreign Affairs, extended with the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs in September, so you spoke in July to go and tell them not to do anything in Mali. But we spoke with them in September, they say they will respect all their commitments. I said, so it is like that, it's lapsed and it's September. So just go back to your office and wait for another leader to threaten, not him. That was done the day after September 24th. And that is why the president continues, so there is nothing new under the sun. It is a process of preserving the dignity of our peoples that led to the creation of the AES. It is not the whims of 3 people only. It is elsewhere that there are whims. Because if we ask these peoples, the peoples will never accept it. I gave you the example, some had thought that the terrorists were only in Mali, they wanted to make their country a rear base, it was Burkina in 2013 and 2014. They did not know that it was going to happen to them. In Niger, it was the same thing. Terrorism has arrived in the north of Benin since 2019, and if people continue to hide these bases to attack the AES countries, not only will it not succeed, but as I said, any country that is going to attack Mali, I do not know the others, it will end badly. You must therefore leave us in peace. Let everyone do what they want at their home, and let no one come and interfere in our internal affairs. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the things that I wanted to explain so that everyone hears and everyone understands. I have written since 2019 the bankruptcy of the Malian state. All the prices of official positions, in the state institutions, in the Senate, in the Assembly, and in the government. People who said that Mali must be divided, I published it in 2019. They said that I am a subversive with bargas, that's what they do, I told you, when they see you, they threaten you when there are 2 of you. When there are people they really caress, you are a friend, a friendly country. That doesn't work with us, we look at the facts. According to Lenin in Russian, we say that that means that the facts are stubborn. There are people who repeat them, they don't even know who it comes from. We look at the facts. The compliments that they give to Africans that they try to take like big babies, that doesn't work with us. Here are the messages, ladies and gentlemen, that I wanted to deliver to you and tell you that Malians are counting on you. The reform of justice is at the same time just like what the army is doing, because the military has accomplished nearly 80% of their work, but the reform of the judicial society is just beginning. You saw the General States meetings have not finished being held. The people expect everything from you, because force and justice are what will make a society. In a country, citizens must be afraid of the force of the state and be ashamed of the sanctions of justice. On this, ladies and gentlemen, I solemnly declare open the ceremony of the General States of the Notary Profession of Mali. Thank you very much.